Hey everyone, it's Mandy. I am back today with another video about Final Fantasy VII Remake. I finished playing the game, I think in May. It is now July, so I have thought about this game so many times. I have played it twice. I beat it once, just on normal mode in May. After that, I streamed it again on hard mode. Streaming it was an incredible experience, and so many things happened around that time. Since playing Final Fantasy VII last year, around now, to now when I played the remake. So I've played through the game twice, I've seen it all twice, I've watched a ton of playthroughs on YouTube and on Twitch. I've seen this game in and out, I've seen so much of this game. And I love it. I love it so much. I think it's fantastic. I really like what they did with it. There are some areas that I kind of take issue with, but overall, the experience of playing this game was beyond satisfying. The original is very special to me as well. I loved playing through the original Final Fantasy VII. It is a game that had been lingering in my mind for a decade or more that I hadn't ever played, but always knew I wanted to. And it's just always been there for me. Finally, last year, this time, I played it. I loved it. I started a second playthrough of the original about a month before the remake came out. I haven't finished that playthrough yet, but I'm going to, and you can watch it on Twitch as I finish it. But I'm about halfway through my playthrough of the original for a second time, and playing it through a second time has been great because I'm noticing things I didn't pick up on the first time, because as you're going through the game, you don't understand the full plot until you reach the end. And there are things that you didn't pick up along the way that you didn't realize were important or why they were important. So a second playthrough is, to me, it seems very necessary to fully understanding the story, or at least watching another playthrough of it. Because yeah, the way the story is told is just brilliant. I love the original. What I want to see from the remake is something very similar to where if you're playing it for the first time, it unfolds for you in a very similar way to how it did in the original. That's what I hope for with this remake. And have they started it off on the right foot? I think so. Man, we're going places with the remake. We're going so many places. It's gonna be different. There are gonna be changes. There are already changes. We don't know exactly the answers right now. There are so many things that those of us that have already played the original, we don't know what's happening in parts 2 and 3 or more beyond. I personally think we'll see 3 parts. It could easily be more though. It could be 5 parts. I don't know for sure. But I do know that there are going to be at least 2, and we do know that part 2 is underway. And I'm excited to see when that comes out. I can't wait to see our first look at it. Oh my goodness. There were just tweets going around earlier today about interviews with the team, the dev team, what's in store for part 2, and how different it's going to be and how it's going to feel, and I just can't wait to see that first look at it. Okay, jumping into, I don't want to call it my review, but my experience playing Final Fantasy VII Remake. I have to start with a character discussion because these characters are so special. So many people hold them very, very near and dear to their heart. My personal favorite in the original was Tifa. Going into the remake, she's still my favorite. I still love my Tifa, but everyone is so well done in this game. Cloud, I think his characterization is perfect. He doesn't have a sense of who he is, and he doesn't know how to interact with people. He's very socially awkward, and we don't know exactly why, but we are seeing glimpses of a past that is disturbing. And obviously that's going to unfold in future parts, and I can't wait to see how they tell it, but I love the flashbacks we get. Oh man, those moments where he looks back and sees things from his past, and you don't know if it's real or if it's an illusion. It's so good. It's so well done. And Tifa gets flashbacks to her father dying, and I just love those moments. I love them so much in the remake. I Also really enjoy Barrett's character and gameplay. Barrett is someone in the original that I always liked, but he was just kind of a secondary character to me. I didn't give him that much importance, but getting to play as him and seeing the emotion in his face and hearing it in his words, oh, the voice acting in this game is incredible. But all of those things tied into one, it really makes him feel like a full character to me. And I really appreciate that about Barrett, and I appreciate his gameplay so much. There are times when only Barrett is what you need, and you're playing as Cloud, you're playing as Tifa, and it's just like, I just gotta get Barrett in there. So switch over to Barrett, he takes care of the situation, and he's so versatile, you know? He can go in and do a bunch of damage, he can come in and heal people, he can do so many things. He always fills that gap in your combat. Okay, I do love the characters, I do. Aerith is someone whose character I didn't particularly love in the remake. Her writing is a little all over the place for me. I started out loving her. I thought she was adorable and fun and just a joy to get to know. I liked watching Cloud get to know her and meeting her for the first time and going over the rooftops with her and her joking around and playing with him and lightening things up because things are dark. I really liked Aerith for that. Near the end of the game though, she just goes off and I really don't know why they chose to do this, but her writing feels so disjointed. She feels like a different character to me. She knows too much but also doesn't know enough. Like if she knows everything, have her know everything. If she is normal Aerith, have her be normal Aerith. I don't know who this Aerith is by the end of the game. She just seems to know too much, and I don't know why. And maybe we'll have answers for that in the next part. I hope we do. I've seen theories about her being Aerith from a future where Final Fantasy VII has already happened, and she is trying to change it. Now, I don't really know how that's possible since Aerith is dead after Final Fantasy VII has happened. But it's possible, I guess, that there's a split in the timeline somewhere. She goes back to retell the story. That's not the theory that I think is true, though. I think that our Aerith just can see into other timelines through the live stream. And I think that's how she knows of these things happening. I don't think she's seeing the future necessarily. I think she's seeing other timelines when we see those flashes with her. Speaking of timelines, I do think we are getting not exactly a time travel story, but kind of a obviously changing your destiny story where you change what's supposed to happen. It's already happened that way. It happened that way in 7 OG, and in Remake, it's not happening that way. So we are getting a divergence in timelines. So it splits, and I think it has split into 3 timelines at this point. I think we have original Final Fantasy VII timeline. I think we have the timeline that we just created at the end of Final Fantasy VII Remake, or maybe at the beginning of 7 Remake. I'm not sure exactly where that split is, but I do think it's a different timeline. And then I think we have a 3rd timeline where Zack is alive. And I don't know who else is alive in that timeline, but I do think that Biggs, Wedge, and Jessie are alive in either timeline 2 or timeline 3. Not sure which one. So we'll see where that goes. I'm excited to see where they take this. I'm excited to see what they do with the timelines. I kind of think they won't do too much with it. I think they're just playing with the idea. We'll maybe see into different timelines, but I don't think they'll have that much of an impact on the story overall. That's just what I think, though. So the changes they made to the plot, that's the biggest one. You know, at the end, you change your destiny, you change what happens at the end of Midgar in 7 OG. Now in Remake, things are different. Totally different, that's fine. There are some minor changes though that I do really appreciate. I don't mind this whole thing of us not knowing what's going to happen in part 2 walking into it. I don't mind that. I don't mind small changes. Things like new characters that were dead in the original being alive now, I'm not a huge fan of, but I'm still very interested and open-minded to see where we're going with this. So we'll see where that goes. There are some changes that I also really like just through the story. So you always knew that Aerith went to get Marlene, and we get to see that. We get to go see her do that. We get to see Aerith go find Marlene, and there is a very interesting interaction between them when she does find her and she touches her. And Marlene, up until that point, is very anxious and nervous and crying, and then Aerith shows her something, and then Marlene feels okay. She trusts her at that point. So there could be more to read into that. I think it's personally Aerith showing Marlene something, maybe her dad, I'm not sure, just to show that she can trust Aerith. I'm not sure what she shows her at that moment. She shows Red something later on at the end of the game, and it has the same effect on Red 13. Red 13 is our ally at that point. So I'm not sure what this power that Aerith has is, but I think it's just maybe showing a vision of something that she has knowledge of to Marlene and to Red. There's a new character. There's a new character in this game, Roche, that we were introduced to in trailers previously. We knew his name was Roche. We didn't know who he was going to be. I thought he was going to be maybe a secondary antagonist through just this first part of the game. I was so wrong. He just shows up for a minute, just kind of to be a little jerk to Cloud, and then he goes on his way. We just found out that he was supposed to appear again for a fight in Chapter 14. I always expected to see him again during the game. He never came back. I know we will see him in Part 2, but I was really hoping to see more of him in Part 1, and I thought he was going to be a bigger character overall. I thought he would have an impact on the actual story and not just be kind of like, you know, this jerk boss guy that shows up that you have to fight sometimes. Some characters that I love in this game that were not as much at the forefront in the original, Jessie, Biggs, and Wedge. I knew going in how much I was going to love them, and it would be so sad seeing their demise. And I was right, up to a point. When I played through Jessie's death, I was devastated. I was devastated watching Biggs die. I kept waiting for the actual moment of Wedge's death, and I'm not sure if we got it. The first time we saw it, I was really sad. I thought, okay, that's definitely it for Wedge. But then you see him not too much later, and that's when you start to think, they're changing things, aren't they? It really starts to clue you in. But man, I did not think they were going to change things this much. If it had just been Wedge surviving, that would be one thing, but it seems like they've all survived, and possibly in the new timeline that we actually care about. Not in the Zack timeline, but in the current timeline that we just played the whole first game in. I love the personalities that they've given these characters that we've known forever, but we just didn't know this well. They made Jessie a full character, they make you love her, they make her so fun, and we might even see more of her, which I'm not sad about, but I'm just torn about because, you know, it just feels like these characters, we needed to say goodbye to them to see how serious this situation is. And maybe that's a different story. Maybe that's not the story we're telling this time. But, it's very crazy to me that she's potentially alive. And the same with Biggs. They give you such a reason to care about him. They show you the kind of person he is and how important the orphanage was to him and is to him. And, you know, he maybe still be alive too. It definitely looks like he's alive. We actually see him in one of the timelines. Don't know which one it is. I'm kind of thinking it is our timeline that Biggs made it. He survived. We'll see in the next part, but that's what I'm thinking for now. And of course, I can only guess what's going to happen in the future parts, but that's how I'm seeing it. I think all three of them are alive in our timeline, and that's nuts. I would like it more if it were just one of them. I don't know which one, but I think if it had just been Biggs surviving, that would be one thing, but all of them surviving is a bit much. It's still possible that they only do give us Biggs back. Maybe they will. It's just hinted that Jessie is alive when we see her gloves at the end, and it's hinted not so much that Wedge is alive, but you just don't see him actually die. So if you don't see a dead body, it's hard to assume that there is one. So we'll see. We'll see what Wedge's fate is. Something I loved in the remake is the music. Oh, it's beautiful. Sometimes I would get so distracted just listening to it. Oh, it's gorgeous. The music is so good. All the variations they did with the original themes are super great, and I wasn't expecting to like Hollow as much as I do. The instrumental version sounds so good as you're running around doing side quests, and it fits right in with the soundtrack, and I didn't expect it to. I love it. And the credits version of the song with the lyrics, as it plays at the last cutscene, it's so good. I really, really love the music. And I love the music in the original. You know, it's amazing that the music could be redone in this way and still pay respect to the original, but be something so new at the same time. I love it. The voice acting in this game is so good. I love these voice actors. I think they all did a spectacular job. You know, in particular, I'll call out the main four: Cloud, Tifa, Aerith, Barrett. Loved them. I love these vocal performances. But also Jessie, I thought she was great. Biggs, Wedge, they were all great. And Red 13, oh my goodness, such good voice acting. Just incredible. It's so good to see these characters brought to life. The interactions between the characters, watching their relationships grow into something out of nothing, from the beginning of the game to the end in such a short time, but also it feels so earned. It really does. When it was announced that Final Fantasy VII was being remade and it would be coming out in parts, I can imagine what the reaction was. But I actually do really like that they're doing it in parts like this. I was never really apprehensive about it because it is such a big game. Even the original game is so huge. It can take so many hours to explore every inch of the map and to do all of the optional things in that game. And I hope we get just as much in the remake. You know, to fit everything into one game now seems crazy. It really does. And I love the deeper dive we get into the characters by having voice acting and not just text boxes on screen. And it just brings these characters to life in such a new way. And it's really great. I love this game so much. I can't wait for part 2, and oh my goodness, when the first teaser drops for this game for part 2, I'm gonna be so excited. I can't wait to see our first look at it. Anyway, thank you guys so much again for watching this video. I am going to do more analysis on Final Fantasy VII Remake as we start to get new stuff about the second part, so look forward to that. And check out the podcast that I did with some of my friends. We talked about Final Fantasy VII Remake and our thoughts on it for 2 hours. So I'll link that below. Thanks so much for all your support. You can find me on Twitch and Twitter at Mandersnatch, and feel free to comment below with any thoughts you have. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. It helps me a lot. Anyway, thank you guys. I really appreciate you all, and I will see you again soon.